So glad you joined me. Today we're going to paint a soft, peaceful, it's kind of a relaxful scene. In fact, the name of it's Peace in the Valley. I'm real anxious to get started on it, so let's just go right to the canvas. In fact, I've already gotten a little bit ahead of myself. I pre-sketched it. And we just could jump right into the painting now. I'm loading a big brush. I'm using a number 12 Bristle. Loading it with white and cadmium yellow medium. I want you to be stingy with your cad yellow medium because it is a real bright color. So all I want you to do is to tint your white a little bit. Okay, we're starting in the horizon, just adding a spot of color to the horizon. Pull across your shapes. These are background trees back in here. Pull across your shapes a little bit. Let some of your strokes go up a little bit higher in the sky than others. Wash your brush. Load with white and alizarin crimson. And we're going to continue upward. Oh, maybe about 3 more inches, 2.5 to 3 inches. A little more or a little less won't hurt. You don't have to be so persnickety at this point. We can fix any mistake or error that we make. You do want to keep your edges ragged. That is important. Overlap your shapes on the side. Take some of your strokes up higher than others. Wash your brush. This time we're going to load it with Veridian green. You're going to see what a pretty combination this makes. Just a beautiful sky. We're going to fill in the rest of the canvas now. Rest of the sky, rather. With the Veridian and the white. And use a big brush so that you can cover an area pretty hurriedly because, like I said, you don't have to be so persnickety here. You're just laying your colors on. Not doing any of your pretty work yet. Looks messy, doesn't it? Not going to bother me a bit in this world. Won't bother me. Okay, I believe we have it covered now. While I'm using the Veridian green, we have a pretty little pond of water down in here. That Veridian would reflect in that water, wouldn't it? So I might as well just go ahead and fill it in. Now we can go back and do some touch-up work on the sky. I'm going to, as soon as I finish this, and I think it'll be right now, I'm going to pick up my fan brush and go back to the sky area again. Let me get that out of your way. Fan brush is dry. I want to blend the edges between the yellow and the pink. Blend the edges between the pink and the green, the Veridian. Soften my brush strokes out a little bit. Make it a little bit pretty, a little bit neater. If you want sort of a mirror finish, you can use after you get your edges blended, you can use these vertical strokes. Now I'm going to lay some clouds in. For that, I'm going to use white and yellow ochre. And the same brush. I think I want them to come down this way just a little bit. Make some pretty shapes here. Maybe one here. And soften. Soften the bottom edge down into the wet sky. Lose it completely. Down into the wet sky. Tip it with a little white to give it some added interest. Oh, that looks great. Little highlight. A little bit too much yellow ochre there. I'll just work it into the sky and it'll just add more character to the painting. We are never defeated. I wonder why I'm getting into that yellow ochre so badly. Okay. Those look good. Now I think that pink is a little bright. So while I have the yellow ochre on my brush, I'm going to scrub across that, cut that brightness just a little bit. On down into the yellow. Okay, that looks great. Now I want the painting to look like the sun is peeking right through here, so I'm going to add a little brighter touch of yellow. Oh, I like that. Soften it. I think I'm going to go to a 1/2-inch bristle. We're going to add our background trees back in here. Now these are way back in the distance, a little bit too purple. Add a little white to it to cut it a little bit. Way back in the distance, just stipple your shapes. Going to get a little bit dark in a minute and come forward. It's to give the painting depth, the distance, to make it look like you can see way, way, way back in your distance. You want it to hang out into the sky. Both sides. Now this is a mixture of Veridian green and Alizarin crimson. Isn't it beautiful? Would you ever thought that those two colors would make a pretty purple like this? It's used a lot in portraits. That combination of colors is. Okay, now I'm going with a little bit more red. I'm going with a little bit more alizarin. See, this is bringing the background growth a little bit closer to us this time because I'm using a bolder color. I'm using more red. It's the same mixture, but more red. Coming a little bit closer. Same thing on this side. Just going to kind of scrub over this there real quickly, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of the canvas. That is so that when I paint, I'm going to put green trees over this, but in case I miss a little spot, I won't have white canvas peeking through. Sometimes we do miss a little spot here and there. Put the purple over this, over my cabin. Oh, that looks like that's so far back, doesn't it? So far back in the distance. Okay, and I'm going to fill in the cabin. I'm going to a number 12 synthetic sable, burnt sienna and white, and I'm going to thin it just a little bit. Add just a touch of burnt umber to take it down in value just a little bit, because right by itself it is a little bit too bright. And I'm going to fill in the cabin. Now, if you want to, and I think I do, go ahead and put your shadow underneath and turn your brush to a vertical position and pull down boards right out of that shadow. Soften your shadow just a little bit. You got one up here too. You got to do the same thing underneath your porch roof. Pull your boards down. All you do is just turn your brush to the vertical position. You have to load it so that it's real sharp like a chisel edge. And pull down. Okay, now we're going to use a brighter color for the roof. We're using the same color, but we're adding more white. If we had used the same color, you wouldn't have been able to see it, would you? Just adding more white to it. Very same, just more white. You have an overhang on this side. There we go. Lost my shadow, got to put it back. Better leave it alone before I lose the whole thing. Sometimes I do that. Now I'm using the 1/2-inch bristle in sap green and burnt umber. I'm going to stipple the green shapes on the side, the green trees. Now try not to lose all of my purple. I put it in on purpose because I wanted to give the painting depth. And I want to keep my depth if I can. And if I plot and plan, I might be able to. I'm going to do my very best. Okay, all of this area down in here is going to be green, so I don't have to worry about trying to keep it real clean looking. I do want some of this to kind of hang out over the sky, though, over the purple. Some of it to go up just a little bit higher. And do the same thing on the other side. Now, I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but when I load my brush, I brush mix. I very seldom mix with the palette knife. Now, if you want to, you certainly should. It's just something that I just don't do very often. You get to me, I get a prettier saturation of color by brush mixing, because sometimes my brush picks up a little more of the green, sometimes a little more of the burnt umber. Now this just folds right over this cabin. Kind of nestles it back in there. Oh, I left a stipple. When you stipple, that's what I'm doing now. You push your brush against your canvas in sort of a patting motion. I just let it. Okay, I'm going to a smaller brush because I'm going to be working around the cabin, and so that I won't lose my lines, I'm going to go to a smaller brush and kind of fill in right through here. I think I'll borrow my glasses for that. And right here. And stipple, and this time I just use the corner of the brush and get it laid in. A little bit too much green in that mixture, and that will not do. Let's put a little bit right back in here. Kind of give the cabin a little depth of distance. These dark colors behind it push it forward. Let me tighten up that area just a little bit right there. Okay, so far we're doing great. I'm going to wash this big brush, this number 12, and load it with sap green and burnt umber and skim right across these banks real quickly. A little more burnt umber. Sap green will overpower it, won't it? It'll take all that burnt umber away from you if you don't just keep adding it, keep adding it, keep adding it. Soften that edge a little bit. Harsh edges in a landscape are not very pleasing. Gives it a harsh, hard look. Okay, this is the bank that goes out in the water. We might as well get it too. Okay, might as well get it while we're working in this area, in these colors rather. If you go right on down into the water, it won't make a bit of difference because we're going to put a reflection there in a few minutes. Okay, this is going to be flowers and green bank across here. Might as well go ahead and underpaint the whole thing while we're working in this color. Every so often, if you pick up a dip of alizarin crimson on your brush, it just really gives you a plus, an added plus to your greenery. It looks like the sun may be catching in an area. I do that a lot. I think it just adds a whole lot to it. So you give it a try and see if you like that mixture better than just the plain sap green and burnt umber. Just ever so often dip into alizarin. Okay, now this is going to be underpainting for flowers that we're going to place on the bank, so we want a stipple here, don't we? Okay, I'm going to let that dry just a little bit while I work on the reflections from the bank. Sap green and burnt umber. Tall tree there, so we're going to have a long reflection, aren't we? Wouldn't hurt if we came all the way down to the bank. You get shorter here. Little bitty ones here. And soften. And it makes our water look dirty, but it makes our water look realistic. Okay, reflections. And soften. Okay, now I'm going to stop there and add some pretty colors in this water. I want the mauves and everything to show in the water too. Oh, look at that. Isn't that pretty? You know it is. Starting to look just as pretty as a picture, isn't it? Okay, how about some of the redder, little bit redder tones? Giving it pizzazz now. And soften. What are we going to do about that yellow? We just got to have it too, don't we? Yes, we do. Okay, now while I'm working with the fan brush, I'm going to go ahead and highlight my banks. Yellow ochre and white. It's got one coming across here, coming across there, dipping down in here. And we are going to soften downward. Notice I use angular strokes for this too. I don't pull straight down. I try to pull it at an angle. Going to have to do the same thing to this bank too. It'd have to have a highlight too, wouldn't it? Yes, it would. Okay, now we need water lines. We need to separate the bank from the water, don't we? These lines are broken, and I'm using the chisel edge of a big old number 12. You could use any brush you wanted to, even down to a script liner. A little bitty small brush if you want to. It wouldn't make any difference. Long as you get the effect we're after. And soften. Can't really see that waterline from where I'm standing. I'm just going to hope that it's straight. But if it's not now, on yours, your waterline has to be straight. Soften that across there real quickly. Okay, we have two great big old trees over here on the left side of the canvas. I'll go ahead and lay those in real quickly. This is burnt umber. And they're pretty big. They're also to brace the painting, to push the push all of this area back into the distance. Okay, we're going to let our light come from the left, so I'm going to highlight the left side of the trees. Now, I'm acting like I just going to highlight the left side because I want to. I don't have a choice there. My sun's coming from that direction. I have to. I have to do it. Just sort of pat them on like this and leave some of the dark paint showing through to give the effect of maybe knot holes. Looking good. Now I'm going to my script line and add a few twigs, branches. Let them pull right out across the trunk. This is not a script line, I'm sorry. This is a number 2 bristle. I'm adding the branches with it, and I'll use the script liner for the twigs. Push them right down into the tree. Now we'll go to the script liner and add us some pretty twigs. Look at that. Take them right on up. Let it fold right back across the tree if you want to. Where is my, here it is. I'm going to say, where is my trusty little number 2? I believe we're going to see the glass this time again. See if we can get us a little duck down in here real quickly, and then we'll put our flowers in. We do want a cute little duck, maybe 3 of them. Put a tail on him, a little head. Reflection. And I'm not finished with him. I'm going to put one up here first and then go back and shadow them some. That one has a pretty big tail, doesn't he? Maybe I better make his body a little bit bigger. And a little bitty one back here by the bank. Just kind of suggested. Okay, this one, poor fella, needs a little bit of work. Poor baby. That'll do it. Okay, it has to have a little shadow, or the little fella's going to look flat. Just a little bit. What else does he have to have? He has to have that big old beak, doesn't he? And he has to have an eye. Now, I really need to go over this a couple of times to make it bright enough. Don't think I'm going to have time, but you will when you're painting it. You want to lay your shape in. Oh, I think he's going to do all right. Reflection, reflection, soften, soften. Pull your reflection right up over the bottom of his body or her body or whatever it is, because if you don't, it's not going to look like it's sitting down in the water. Now, we do need a way to get in that cabin, don't we? I think we are duty-bound to add a doorway. For a little character, let's add a window. A little bit smaller. Tell you the truth, really the front of this cabin needs to go a little bit darker, doesn't it? Because our light's coming from this side, although those trees are kind of shading it. Still has to be a little bit darker. Okay, now back to the pretty flowers that I promised you. Alizarin crimson and white. Add a little yellow ochre because this painting is sort of soft in value. We don't have any real bright colors anywhere. Alizarin and white right by itself would not work with the painting. Be too bright. Stipple your flowers. You want to put some more colors in here too to really play it up. Soften the bottoms down into the bank. Let's go right on up over the tree trunks. Okay, how about some yellow ochre and white? They would add to it, wouldn't they? Ooh, look at that, how pretty that is. Brightening it up some now. I like that. And dry your brush. Soften downward into the wet paint that's on your canvas. So what do we need down in here now? We need a contrast, don't we? How about Veridian green and white? I bet, oh, look at that, that's going to do it. Dry your brush and soften. Now I'm leaving the corner of the painting real dark. I'm doing that on purpose. I want all of this to be pushed back. And if I bring these light colors all the way down to the bottom of the canvas or to the sides, I'm going to get a flat look to it. Let's put some little bitty shapes kind of hanging out here and there. Really kind of polish it up a little bit. Go into a smaller brush and get me some real small little flowerlets or whatever you might want to call them. They're real pretty if you show a few just kind of folding or hanging over the dark area. Gives your painting sort of a polished or finished look. There's some green ones up in here. Oh, look at that, right up over the bank. Anything we do want is a polished painting, and one that has a finished look to it. Take that out. It has kind of a blunt edge to it. Let's just let it just take on going out in the water and just end up nowhere out in there. Okay, now the flowers are pretty, but they have sort of a flat look. Can you figure why? They have no shadow. Pretty colors, but no shadow structure whatsoever. And they need shadows. Everything needs a shadow. Well, Peace in the Valley, I think you've turned out to be a pretty... Oh, that alizarin looked good in there. Was trying to clean that area off, but it looks so good, I'm going to leave it. I think I'll add a few yellow flowers. Just a few, one or two. Okay, now can you see how that brought this bright color, this bright yellow, brought this area closer to us and pushed all of that backwards? That's the type of things you need to look for in a painting, is depth. Getting the proper color perspective. I think I might just take a minute and pull a few little, some kind of little foliage farther across this, nestle this cabin back just a little bit. I think I'll use the same brush I've been using, okay? Put just a touch here, and I think we'll call it finished. I certainly have enjoyed being with you. See you tomorrow. See you next week.